This is the new Gordon Murray T.33 Spider, and it has a claim to fame. It is the only V12 powered open supercar with a manual gearbox that you can buy in the world. When I say that you can buy, there's only going to be 100 of them made, and you need well over £1 million to be able to afford one. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about it, because I'm Matt Watson and you're watching Carwow. Buy, sell, Carwow. Actually, do you know what? Rather than me telling you about this car, why not ask the guy behind it, Gordon Murray, who is responsible for this lovely car. So can you tell me about the design of this car? So obviously we've seen the T33, this is the open version.
Well, the original concept was me wanting to exercise my sort of memories and nostalgia from the 1960s. I grew up in the 60s and I loved the sports racing car. The 33 Coupe is basically all my influences from the 1960s. And of course you can't do that with an F1 or a T50 because it's very forward cabin. So after that, I was determined to do something that I could have classic proportions and a sort of style and a beauty that would last, hopefully, decades. There seems to be a race at the moment among supercars to be more and more outrageous, you know, with shapes and ducts and holes. Nothing on our cars has not got a function.
This new GT3 RS has got the big wing on the back, lots of vents and stuff down the side, and it does look kind of cool. It makes it look super fast.
Porsche actually probably the exception.
And they work.
They're serious people. But a lot of the other cars, really, the stuff doesn't do anything at all.
Lamborghini.
I can't mention names.
Okay, all right. So this is one of the things about this car. You're talking about the inspiration coming from like your hero cars from the 60s and stuff like that. When I first saw this and I walked in here, it's got a sort of familiarity to it, but not at the same time. So I feel quite comfortable with it. And you're talking about all like the vents and the showiness. I don't want you to take this the wrong way because it's actually a compliment. When you look at this car, I don't think people necessarily go, that's, you know, £1.5 million. There's something about this that I feel like I could just hop in it and drive it and not worry. And then, you know, when I'm driving, I'll be feeling like, oh, this is something special. But it doesn't seem to have an intimidating look to it.
But that's intentional. You know, we're not trying to follow trends. Infamously now, I never worry about 0 to 60, 0 to 100 times. It's all about the driving. And we like to build cars that let you know they're still boss. A lot of that's to do with the engine response, but it's also the way we set the car up on the suspension and the steering. And of course, being a Spider, this is going to be so visceral. No roof, drop the rear glass electrically so you can bring the engine into the car. And then of course you've got the airbox just above your head.
And it sort of protrudes as well.
And also, like 33 Coupe, this is attached directly to the engine, so the traffic light's going to shake.
And can you see that shaking? Yes, you can in your rear view mirror.
You will.
So you can look at it yourself and enjoy it.
So, I mean, if you're after a supercar Spider experience, this is it, basically.
It's not a full-on convertible, so the roof doesn't fully come off. It's more like a Targa.
All the usual compromises with Spiders, that is lack of torsional rigidity and bad aero, we didn't want that because our sort of motto is, you know, driving perfection. And that means a car's got to be not a boulevard cruiser. It's got to be good from a vehicle dynamics point of view. So when we designed the coupe, we set the minimum torsional target for the Spider, not the coupe. The second one was I didn't want to do the double bump that most supercar Spiders have because aerodynamically that's not terribly clever. I always wanted to do this faired in rollover bar. So we get exactly the same aero performance with this as we do the coupe. This only makes 150 kilos of downforce, and that's what you need to make the car stable in a high-speed corner.
One question. Obviously on the coupe, I can see the engine.
Letting in a glass panel here was just a bit kitsch, to be honest. Even if you did, you'd have to literally kneel on the car to see the engine, because it's about 200 mil lower than any other V12.
This is a good point to talk about the engine. Shall we go and have a look at it?
Sure.
So here it is then, 3.9 litre naturally aspirated V12. What kind of size is that comparable to?
It's not a lot bigger than some of the big four-cylinder engines, actually, from a length point of view, and it's much lower than anything else.
It's just so like shallow, isn't it?
Yeah, it stays really flat because the centre of gravity is so low.
And in terms of the power output?
It's about 615 in 33, 670 in T50, and 772 in 50S.
And it revs up to, because I've heard this engine, right? So we film at Millbrook, and whenever we're filming like cars are there and we hear your cars, we always keep them in the video. I mean, it just sounds epic.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. I drove the Aston Martin Valkyrie, and on the outside, this car is amazing. It sounds so good, but in the cabin, it's almost too much. It's like having an opera singer, like belt out a high C down your ear hole. What's it like inside the cabin?
It's all induction sound because of the inlet being NA. You know, we don't get the muffled turbo noise, but also it's right above your head, and that was done on purpose. It's not just for ram reduction, it's for the noise, because I always think back to the F1 that's got that lovely growl.
Isn't it the most responsive engine in the world?
It is, without doubt, because it's not just the engine, it's the car weight as well. If you combine a really fast, low inertia engine with a light car, you'll get the fastest throttle response of anybody.
One of the things I like about Porsche GT cars is that throttle response. When you compare them to the turbos and stuff like that. You forget what it's like.
You do, actually, because so many people have grown up on turbos. You get back into a strong NA engine and it's
just like bang, bang.
It almost feels like the engine knows you're about to push the throttle. It's gone. We never boasted about it, but when we launched the T50, we said this has got a good chance of being the greatest road car engine ever built. Now that I've driven that a lot, it is. It really is. Cosworth has done a magic job, really.
And you say it's like the redlines low, it's 11,000 RPM.
Yeah, only 11,000. But I've always said, a supercar, more than 50% of the car is the engine.
With that in mind, and I agree, right? And I think this is one of the big problems of electric cars. They're brilliant for certain applications. These are like instruments, basically blowing air, aren't you?
Absolutely, but it's horses for courses, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other part of the business is making 2 electric SUVs at the moment. We'll make sure that in their class, they are quite simply the best they can be and the best driving experience in that segment. This is something else.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the last of the great internal combustion engine. Although I think people are beginning to realize that the ICE engines are going to be around for a lot longer than people first thought.
I think some of these targets might be moved. Right, let's get back to the car. It makes sense, Gordon, to talk about the roof because that's the key difference, obviously, to the coupe version of the T33. There's a reason why we can't show it operating now, isn't there?
This is a show car, basically. It's about 60 seconds to take the roof panels out and they stow in the front luggage compartment. Another thing is we've realized subsequently, because this was designed a show car 9-10 months ago, this is a little bit too close. So we've actually moved this forward about 110 mil.
So the panels are bigger than this. This will come more to about here. Well, that just goes to show like the attention to detail and the changes that you're willing to make. Because some manufacturers, they wouldn't, would they? They'd just go,
well, I know.
How much is that?
We have a very short product cycle time because we're a tiny team relative to a big OEM. So we can say, well, hold on, that's a mistake. Let's change, and we change.
Can we see underneath the bonnet?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we've got the iPad here. So I'm going to open it. Obviously, this is not what customers will do.
No.
They'll press a button on a key fob, right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to give you this because I'm going to need both hands to get my fingers under here. There we go. Look, I could just about do it. Don't want to damage the paint. And there is the front boot. So the roof panels, what? They fit in there?
Yep. On the show car, this is 95 litres. It's going to 115. We've moved the shut line forward about 40 mil, 50 mil.
So there are still quite a few changes actually happening then.
Oh, yeah. This is, as I
here.
say, this is a snapshot.
How quick did it take for the T50 to sell out?
48 hours.
And T33, is that sold out?
3 days.
So what are you expecting for this?
I think it's going to be similar.
You can buy one if you're quick and Gordon. Let me shut this in. Can we see the boot at the back as well?
You just pull it out a few inches and it'll take over.
So this is the boot?
Yep. If you get your fingers in there, it'll open itself.
That is so cool. You do need your bespoke luggage. I highly recommend that if you're buying a T.33 Spider, then you should definitely get the bespoke luggage. Or does it come included?
No, we'll do bespoke luggage for it, definitely, yeah. It can take 6 suitcases altogether, 2 each side here and 2 in the boot.
That is so nice. I'm always a bit nervous about shutting.
No, it'll close itself.
Oh, we've got soft close, of course. Right, and to get into the cabin, you press this here, but obviously it doesn't work because this is a show car. Okay, so we've got the doors open, and they don't open like conventional doors, obviously. You don't want that on your supercar. Is it a supercar or is it a hypercar?
I don't know what a hypercar is.
T50S, is that a hypercar?
No, that's track car.
T50?
That's supercar.
That's definitely one more than supercar.
What's next then?
Well, we'll figure that out when the time comes.
Light speed 3.2.
But there's a point that someone goes, that's not just a car, that's a supercar. And this is beyond what we'd class as a supercar. Like let's say a Lamborghini Aventador is a supercar. This is beyond that. So doors don't open conventionally. They sort of go up. What is that?
That's dihedral.
Dihedral doors, which makes it easier to get in.
It's easier for your foot swing.
Which obviously, because it's a low car, that really helps. And you've got quite a high sill, because obviously it's structural rigidity. Let me see what it's like to get in. Do you know what? I think that was the right decision already. Just taking that back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really notice getting your foot in just easy.
Yeah, this is a show car, so obviously nothing, the gear lever moves, but that's about it.
Okay, so I can't experience the gear shift then?
The throw's right, but the feel won't be, of course.
Okay. Can you adjust the backrest angle?
The whole seat will tilt, so you can, yes.
Do you have it set up? So when I buy the car, you're
Yeah,
set up?
what we do is we have, just like 50, we have a seating bucket. Every single customer comes along and gets fitted to the car. So the pedals have more than one position. We can put the steering wheel exactly where you want it. And we even have different shapes of seat. So we make sure everybody's absolutely comfortable.
And notice the steering wheel, pretty simple that is.
And nice and thin, the grip.
Very thin. Why are steering wheels really fat? I don't know.
I think it's marketing.
Tell you who has thin steering wheels? McLaren's. This is even thinner though,
That must come from the F1 then, because the F1 was the first modern supercar to have a thin wheel.
That's interesting because obviously this is a manual. So the horn's there.
You've got a horn and headlamp flash to move people out of the way.
And then you've got your indicators there, and this will control.
Yeah, so this is a left-hand screen, which is all your car info, and that's volume for your infotainment. So it's Apple CarPlay.
So we do have some functionality here, but it's all quite simple stuff.
It's very, very simple. And no column stalks. Everything's analog. All the switches are analog. There's no touch screen.
And you say 2 screens.
That right-hand one is infotainment.
Analog rev counter though.
Yep.
And then we've got other controls here. So these are like, this is your driving modes here. So you've got S and GT. Is this just throttle response?
All engine, not the chassis. The chassis control is down here. We've got traction control and ESP that you can switch off.
One of the things that you really notice about this car is like when you sit in it, it's like, okay, can pretty much see absolutely everything.
The bonnet line is about 100 mil lower than any other supercar. And also we make sure that the front of the wheel arch, the highest point is in line with the center, so you can place it easily on an A road.
Obviously the chassis carbon fiber. This is what surprised me, just getting in. That's really like narrow.
Yeah, well, we use our what we call iStream Ultralight. That's a structure where you can vary the thickness of the carbon in the monocoque really easily. We've only added 18 kilos over the coupe with the Spider.
I mean, this way is what, was it 1,100 kilos?
Yeah.
I'm getting an Audi R8 Spider, nice car, all right, 4-wheel drive. That's like 1,700 kilos, same power.
1,700?
Apparently.
Yeah, wow, okay.
And that obviously has a dual clutch automatic gearbox, and that's all you can get it with. This is a manual, but I thought you were doing an auto as well.
Yeah, don't go there. I'm really embarrassed. That was totally my fault. I said when we were building the coupe or designing the coupe that maybe reach a broader audience and we should offer and nobody ordered it.
Really? So you scrapped it?
We had to scrap it, yeah.
Was that expensive?
Yep.
Oh well, but I suppose people want the manual.
You know, you've got to listen to the customer. They didn't want it.
That's really interesting, actually. It just goes to show the kind of people who are buying this car.
Absolutely. 80-90% are going to use the car and use it a lot, which is quite satisfying for a car manufacturer.
I'd like to run through some of my cars and get your opinion on them, right, Gordon? So I've got quite an eclectic mix of rather crap cars. I know you've got like hundreds of cars and like real famous, brilliant cars. I'd like you to give your opinion on my cars. I've got a Fiat 126 Polski Fiat. I wanted an air-cooled 911 but couldn't afford one, so I got a rear-engined air-cooled car, and that was the one I could afford.
That's a good, interesting rear car. It is, and it's quite rare as well.
And it's very mechanical. I like the feel of driving it. So out of 10...
I think that's probably a 7.
Well, that's good, okay. Next car, I've got a Mazda MX-5. It's a Mark II, which is the ugly one, but I thought the chassis was slightly better than the Mark 1. It's a 1.8 and I supercharged it.
That's an 8.
Yeah, okay. Right, I've got a Porsche 911 996. It's the first one, 3.4, and I chose that specifically because it's got a cable throttle. But then I put a diff in it, and I changed the suspension to Olin Road and Track and upgraded the anti-roll bar. So I tried to create a GT3, and I don't know if I'm succeeded, but it feels good.
Those early 911s are fun. They really are. That's a 9.
Really? Even everyone says it's the worst 911.
Doesn't matter. They're all good.
Then the next car is a Toyota GR Yaris.
Now, I've never driven one, but I believe they're really good.
But okay, so you can't give an opinion on that. Maybe I'll take it round your house and you can lend me this to have a go in. We'll go for a drive. Right, okay. Next one then, I've got a Suzuki Jimny, the latest one.
Oh, that's a 10, because I got one too.
Oh yeah, they're good, aren't they? It's so good.
I got one this colour actually.
And
you're doing pretty well so far.
Yeah, I did all right. I might lose some marks here. Mark 1, BMW X5 V8. 4, okay, well, fair enough. And then my final car, which I've ordered, I'm very proud of because I've ordered it, it's coming, the new GT3 RS.
Oh yeah, that's got to be another 10.
Yes. Gordon rates my cars. I'm made up. Right, okay. One of the things that I do in our videos is just like, check out how practical a car is, and you need your...
We always do cars.
Supercar.
We hate designing cars that have anything in them that stops you using them, basically. My Alpine, I've got an Alpine A110, it's my everyday car, and it's got nothing inside. You can't even put sunglasses or a phone down inside, So I've made a storage bin between the seats, but at least I've got something.
So what do you mark that car as quickly? I'd say it was probably a 9. The engine lets it down.
Engine and steering let it down a bit. I would say 9, yeah.
But anyway, back to the storage on this. So we've got some storage here. Have we got some under here?
Yeah, there's quite a deep bin under, that doesn't open.
Okay,
this,
but there will
quite
be.
a deep bin, yeah. And there's a big storage bin at the back, which is, you can get a litre bottle of water in there, yeah.
Which we can't show. Do you have some, there's no door?
No, with dihedral doors, everything falls out.
Of course it does, yeah. And there's no glove box because you want to keep the dash small.
Airbag and the HVAC fill it up pretty much.
And this is more just for like art.
It's to make it look lightweight, but there'll be an anti-slip mat on that, so you can always pop your phone or your sunglasses in there as well. That's the only place you've got on the LP Nest is a little tray like
here.
that. Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that you try to achieve with the car is like perfect driving experience, but also like automotive art, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And that's what this is. This is a little bit.
Yeah, it's just stop it looking too clunky.
And speaking of automotive art, so the carbon fibre on this car, it looks different.
We felt like we could break the mold a bit, so we're using this upcycled carbon. However, if somebody wants woven, they can have it.
So if you like the weave, you can have it. Is it a no-cost option, or is it more because you have to line the weave
I don't know
up?
if it's been costed yet, but certainly it's an option.
That actually brings us onto the chassis. So let's hop back out again and talk around the actual chassis of the car. We were just talking about engineering art inside the cabin. I've got a question for you about the exhaust. Why do you have those extra little vents there? I'm sure they're just for show, right?
Initially, they were they're like an extractor. Porsche, I think, were the first people to do that way back in the 50s or 60s. I don't do oval or square or trapezoidal exhaust. I hate it. I love just straightforward round. It's like the rear lights.
Yeah, it's
exactly
simple.
The same thing.
But look good because they're like this 3D.
Just because you can with
them.
LEDs now, you can do this sort of melted fruit.
Yeah.
Japanese type stuff. Just because you can, people get too carried away. One of our signatures is it needs to be technical and good design, full stop. And the exhausts are that, and the lights are that.
Okay, you were just talking about like things being overdone. What do you think about the new BMW 7 Series?
Yes.
Do you know what? I actually like a bit of that kind of like craziness. I do actually like. I like it at first.
You probably hate this then.
No, I don't, because it's like I said at the beginning when I saw it. It's not like there's a multi-million-pound supercar, but when you spend more time with it and you look at it, like especially from this angle here, that is beautiful. But it's not in your face when you come in and go, wow, like a Pagani makes you go like, oh, look at all those bits and the shininess and oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're diametrically opposite from that. Yeah.
And I like both of them. I appreciate both of them. But it is interesting when you say that everything serves a purpose. Like obviously the diffuser here, fully, it's designed like that to do the job of just smoothing the airflow. Anyhow, that brings us on to the chassis then finally. So this car, it's carbon fibre chassis.
Yep.
What suspension setup are you using on it?
We promised everybody that once we'd finished 50, the next thing we did would be a completely new platform, and that's what 33 is. So
it's completely different than that. You didn't use...
There's virtually nothing carried over.
Is that because you wanted to do the traditional seating position rather than the 3?
Yes. When you do a two-seater, the architecture is completely different. The weight distribution is slightly different. The aero is a lot less extreme than 50, so you can do a different suspension setup. You can make the car slightly more comfortable. It doesn't have to support so much downforce. And of course, the top speed, that's 226. This is 208, so the downforce is considerably less.
So the suspension is, what is it, double wishbone?
It's double wishbone.
Dampers, they're adjustable or passive?
Passive, yep.
Why have you gone for passive? Like, it's so popular at the moment to have the ability to change like the damping of the car and set it up, you know, for how you want to drive it, sporty, if you want it kind of like a bit more track focused.
When you build a car this light, there's rarely only one proper suspension setting for it. If you've got a really heavy car, 1,500 kilos or more, you've got to try and disguise the weight.
Okay, so the car actually came today, you'll find very rubbish, and it's an Audi S8, so it's a big heavy car, and it's got adaptive dampers, air suspension, and a special thing that can lift the body up as well with the camera that reads the road, which it's actually really, really quite good.
If that car was 700 kilos less,
be better.
And it handled a lot more, and it had proper ride heights to start with, you wouldn't need any of that stuff. You know what we benchmarked for T50 and T33? Alpine A110. I gave it to the guys for 2 months. They stripped it down. We put it on a K&C rig. We did torsional tests, bending tests. We measured all the suspension geometry. We looked at the damper rates, and that's got nothing trick on it at all. And it's the best ride and handling compromise I've ever driven.
Anyway, let's move on to the wheels and the brakes. I noticed you're just on normal Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss.
We didn't want anything that would stop people buying the car and using the car. So it's a relatively light motor car, so it doesn't need big rims, it doesn't need wide wheels. And I made a huge mistake with the McLaren F1 where I did bespoke tyres, and now, of course, people are struggling to find tyres for an F1.
Are you forward thinking, like what's going to happen in 20 years' time?
Definitely. These sort of cars stay in the family for decades. It's also the fact that tyres now, compared with 1990,
Way better.
are just so much better. I mean, these tyres are probably the best all-round tyre in the world.
Then brace, obviously carbon ceramics. So people go, why having carbon ceramics?
Weight.
And it's not attractive. Weight, unsprung mass. Are the wheels magnesium if you're really going?
These are forged aluminium.
So why don't you go for magnesium wheels? Because that would
Because
save
I
more weight.
did that on the F1. I learnt a lot of lessons on the F1, what to do, but also what not to do. The poor old customers, because mag, as soon as you scratch it or curve it, it starts oxidizing.
I said that I was getting a GT3 RS. That might come on mag wheels. If I get mag wheels, should I buy a set of aluminium ones to use on the road?
You just keep away from the curbs.
It's like no one intentionally goes whack. Potholes and stuff like that. Yeah, that's got me nervous because they're quite expensive. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that.
Yeah. Magnesium needs a different type of primer and a different type of paint. And also forged aluminium these days you can get almost as light.
Give me an example of an extreme level of weight saving that you've done somewhere on this car. Obviously, you haven't done the wheels.
I'll give you an example. We fight to go down from an 8mm titanium bolt to a 6mm titanium bolt.
That doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't you just do
Because a titanium bolt is longer lasting than a steel bolt.
So these are the kind of like things that you don't realise that go, and people are never going to see that, are they? Because that's another thing about this car. Isn't it supposed to be beautiful? Like for the people who will work on it, they'll get to enjoy parts of it that owners won't, because they'll be like underneath and opening up bits of the
Every
bodywork.
single customer for T50 has been inside the prototype shop and seen every bit of the car. A lot of companies won't allow that, but we do.
Do you have OCD?
Probably.
All this effort and energy goes into the price. So
That was 1.37. This is 1.89.
bit of an uplift.
It's mainly inflation, yeah.
Oh, really?
Parts. Well, don't forget, we priced that one about 3 years ago. And since then, the bill of materials has gone up nearly 40%.
With that in mind, T50, that's 2.5.
2.36.
So if that was done today, what would it be?
That would be over 3. So by the time people get the 33 Coupe, they've got a bargain.
Yeah, exactly. I test drove the AMG 1 and that engine has to be rebuilt every 30,000 miles. But no one's really going to be doing 30,000 miles in it. What's the longevity of the engine on this?
Well, it's warranted for 50,000 miles, so that means Cosworth have had to make sure it does at least double that, so probably 100,000.
How does it work with warranties on a car like this?
Just like any other car.
So it's not 3 years?
Yep.
So the car goes on sale today. So as you're watching this video, this car is now on sale. What we're going to do is put a pin comment, and I want you to guess how many days it's going to take until it's sold out. And we'll actually answer that a week later or so, because I reckon it'll probably be sold out within a week.
I hope you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, Gordon, thank you very much for showing us around this car. Really, really exciting to see these as well. And hopefully, when it's road ready, I'd love the opportunity to drive it.
With your car collection, I think this will be your sort of car.
Yeah, I think it might be too.
I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like. If you click on those windows there, you can watch some more videos. And if you click on that box there, you can go to CarWow to see how much money you can save on your next car. Thanks for watching.